Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack complex information together, helping you navigate the insights that truly matter. Forget information overload. We're on a shared journey to becoming genuinely well-informed. Today, we're embarking on what feels like a really pivotal mission, a side-by-side technical deep dive into the absolute cutting edge of artificial intelligence in medicine. Specifically, we're looking at health foundation models. Think of these models as pioneers, maybe, each charting a unique course through the incredibly complex landscape of medical AI. We're talking about the titans leading the charge here: MedPaLM2, MedGemini, and MedGemma.
And you've given us a stack of fascinating sources, really hinting at the intricate designs and, frankly, the formidable capabilities of these models. So our goal today is to unpack their capabilities, their deep implementation details, and, their architectural nuances. We want to give you, our listener, a truly discerning AI researcher's perspective on where these models stand, particularly in respect to clinical settings. We'll explore their fundamental design principles, their sophisticated training methodologies, and we'll get into things like PEFT and reinforcement learning, fine-tuning their rigorous evaluation frameworks, and their, pretty ambitious multimodality capabilities.
So what do these distinct approaches really mean for the future of AI in healthcare? And what's the underlying math and evolution that got us here? Okay, let's unpack this. The whole landscape has shifted, hasn't it? The advent of large language models, LLMs, and now large multimodal models, LMNs, it's fundamentally changed AI's paradigm. We've moved beyond systems that were, stuck doing narrow, specific tasks. Now we're in an era of general-purpose understanding reasoning. And this capability now extends to the incredibly complex, diverse data you find in medicine.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about processing medical text, although that's part of it. We mean handling everything. High-resolution medical images like X-rays, MRIs, intricate genomic sequences, and the comprehensive, often messy electronic health records. This shift is, it's fundamentally transformative for medicine. That's really what we want to explore today.
Yeah, and it feels like this capability, the ability for AI to reason over medical knowledge, answer questions like a physician. It's been a long time coming.
Oh, absolutely. It's long been considered a grand challenge in AI, like DeepMind's AlphaGo conquering Go or AlphaFold solving protein folding. Those were monumental shifts. Medical AI in its own way is just as profound a challenge, maybe even more so, given the direct impact on human health. Early models like the first MedPaLM were significant steps, right? Famously achieving that passing score on USMLE style questions. But the progress is just so rapid now. Continuous evolution. Each new iteration brings us significantly closer to that expert-level clinical performance.
And that rapid progress brings us right here to comparing these three contenders: MedPaLM2, MedGemini, and MedGemma. These aren't just minor updates, are they? They represent distinct, sometimes complementary approaches to building genuinely expert-level medical AI. Each one brings unique architectural choices, different training philosophies, specific evaluation focuses. Understanding these differences is, I think, absolutely vital for any AI researcher looking at this space. This is where it gets really interesting. Okay, let's kick things off with MedPaLM2. This one really represents a profound leap forward in medical question answering, especially for text-based clinical reasoning.
That's right. Its predecessor, MedPaLM, was already a pioneer. It was the first model to actually exceed a passing score on USMLE-style questions. It got 67.2% on the Med-VQA dataset, which was impressive then. But MedPaLM2 built on that substantially. It boosted that score by over 19%, getting up to a remarkable 86.5%.
Wow, that's a huge jump. Puts it right in the expert level range for those exams.
Definitely. And what's fundamental to understanding MedPaLM2's architecture is that it leverages improvements directly from its base LLM, which is PaLM2. So it's not a medical model designed totally from scratch. It's more like taking a powerful general-purpose LLM and then deeply, deeply specializing it for the medical domain through extensive fine-tuning.
Kind of a best-of-both-worlds approach.
Exactly. It harnesses the robust reasoning potential of a cutting-edge general LLM and then precisely tailors it for the, safety-critical requirements of medicine. That underlying PaLM2 architecture gives it a strong foundation for scaling and complex reasoning. MedPaLM2 then builds on this by deeply integrating medical knowledge and ensuring its outputs align with clinical standards.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts, the core design, the training methodologies.
Yeah.
What makes it so effective?
Well, a few standout techniques. First, as you'd expect, is extensive medical domain fine-tuning. Just exposing the model to a massive amount of medical literature, clinical guidelines, case studies, essentially giving it a vast medical knowledge base.
Standard practice for domain adaptation.
Right. But second, and this is really vital for medicine, is instruction prompt tuning. This method was absolutely crucial for aligning the model with human values and expectations, especially around safety, trustworthiness, ethical considerations in a clinical context. You can't mess around with that. This alignment, often done using techniques maybe like RLHF or similar preference optimization, led to substantially better physician evaluations compared to the first MedPaLM. It makes sure the model doesn't just know the facts, but presents them in a clinically appropriate, safe way.
Okay, that makes sense. But you mentioned something about a novel refinement approach. That sounded particularly interesting architecturally.
Ah, yes. The novel ensemble refinement approach. This is where its reasoning capabilities get a significant, almost transformative boost. It draws inspiration from concepts like self-consistency, recitation augmentation, self-refined, dialogue-enabled reasoning, quite a few advanced techniques. The core idea is the model doesn't just generate one answer path, it sort of thinks out loud multiple times. It generates multiple reasoning paths or internal thought processes for a given question.
Okay.
Then it contextualizes its final response by conditioning it on these diverse reasoning paths generated in a prior step. Imagine the model doing a kind of internal peer review of its own thinking.
Like checking its own work.
Exactly. Iteratively self-correcting, refining its answer based on these multiple internal perspectives. It's not just about getting a smarter answer, it's about the model learning to think better by reviewing its own internal logic, which is crucial for true clinical reasoning, kind of like how a human expert reflects and refines their differential diagnosis. This significantly enhances its medical reasoning, makes it much more robust, especially in complex scenarios with lots of factors.
That sounds powerful. How do they evaluate this? The evaluation framework must have been pretty comprehensive.
Incredibly comprehensive. They really pushed beyond simple accuracy metrics to assess clinical utility. On the multiple choice benchmarks, it was tested on a whole range of challenging datasets. Med-QA using USMLE style questions, Med-MCQA for Indian medical entrance exams, PubMed-QA for biomedical research QA, and specific MMLU clinical topics, genetics, anatomy, professional medicine, even college biology and medicine.
A broad sweep. And the performance.
Outstanding. It hit that 86.5% on MedQA we mentioned, significantly outperformed GPT 3.5 at 60.2%, PaLM at 67.6%, and what's really interesting is it closely matched GPT-4 base, which got 86.1%. It approached or exceeded state-of-the-art across MedMCQA, PubMedQA, and those MMLU clinical topics too.
So competitive with the best general models on these benchmarks.
Yes, but here's a particularly insightful point for AI researchers. Its alignment strategy. MedPaLM2 maintained this strong benchmark performance while being specifically aligned for long-form medical question answering. This is key because some general models, like you see the difference between GPT-4 base and the aligned GPT-4, actually saw a performance drop on certain benchmarks after alignment. MedPaLM2 showed you can specialize for safety and utility in generating nuanced, long-form answers without necessarily sacrificing that broad knowledge or accuracy on standard tests. Suggests a more robust fine-tuning approach, perhaps.
That's a really important distinction. And beyond multiple choice, you mentioned long-form human evaluations. That seems critical for real-world use.
Absolutely vital. This isn't about picking A, B, C, or D. It's about generating nuanced, comprehensive answers that show real clinical understanding. They used questions from multi-MedQA datasets, including a big set of 1066 consumer medical questions, and they also introduced new adversarial test sets, 240 questions designed specifically to probe LLM limitations, push them into tricky areas where they might fail or hallucinate.
Try to break it, essentially.
Pretty much. And this is where MedPaLM2 really shone. In a rigorous, pairwise ranking study on those 1066 consumer questions, physicians actually preferred MedPaLM2 answers over answers produced by other physicians.
Wow, really? Preferred over human doctors?
On 8 out of 9 axes related to clinical utility, yes. And it was statistically significant, p0.001, very unlikely to be chance. The axes covered things like better reflection of consensus, better comprehension, knowledge recall, reasoning, less inaccurate info, omitting less info, less bias, lower likelihood of harm. Really thorough. And the agreement between the physician raters was high too, Randolph's kappa up to 0.8 on some axes, which indicates very good agreement, speaks volumes about the perceived quality.
That's seriously impressive. But even with results like that, there must be limitations, right?
Yeah.
What are the next steps?
For sure. The researchers themselves are upfront about it. They stress the need for more studies, particularly prospective studies, to really validate efficacy in actual clinical settings. Benchmarks aren't the real world. And the human evaluation rubrics themselves, they need continued development. How do you perfectly capture clinical utility, safety, the whole AI-human interaction? It's complex. It highlights that model development is iterative. Real-world deployment needs more than just high benchmark scores. For AI researchers, it means we need to design more dynamic, ecologically valid evaluations.
Okay, that's a great overview of MedPaLM2. Let's shift gears now to MedGemini. This one feels like it's taking a big leap into multimodal territory.
It really is. Med-Gemini is all about multimodal medical intelligence. Its foundation is built directly on the advanced multimodal capabilities and long context understanding of the base Gemini models. The core idea is compelling. Medicine is inherently human-focused, right? It's not just text, it's not just one image. It requires systems that can see the whole clinical picture, interpret images, understand genomics, process text, put it all together.
And architecturally, it's not just one big model trying to do everything.
No, and that's a key design choice. It's a family of models, each one optimized for different data types. This was deliberate. Early experiments apparently found that custom vision encoders, tailored for each format, just performed much better than a single universal one trying to handle X-rays, genomics, everything. This modularity isn't just efficiency, it's a strategic recognition that diverse medical data needs specialized intelligence. A one-size-fits-all approach might not cut it.
Okay, can you break down these specific family members? This sounds like where the real ingenuity lies.
Absolutely. There are three distinct variants. First, MedGemini 2D. This one's for your conventional 2D medical images, a broad range. Chest x-rays, 2D slices from CT/MRI, histopathology patches, ophthalmology images like retinal scans, dermatology photos. All these diverse 2D types are included in its fine-tuning, so it gets robust understanding across common visual medical data.
Okay, a comprehensive 2D specialist. But medicine isn't always flat. What about 3D data?
Right. So next is MedGemini 3D. And this one is really innovative architecturally. It cleverly leverages Gemini's base video understanding capabilities. But instead of applying them to the time axis in a video, it repurposes them for the depth dimension in 3D medical data.
Ah, so it treats the stack of slices like frames in a movie?
Essentially, yes. It processes a series of 2D slices from, say, a CT volume as if they were video frames. This lets it synthesize information across multiple slices, building a volumetric understanding for tasks like generating a radiology report from the entire 3D scan. This approach, adapting video architectures to spatial depth, also opens doors for analyzing other volumetric data like MRI or ultrasound later on. It's a really creative solution for handling that massive 3D data.
That is brilliant. Very clever adaptation. And the third one, the genomic specialist.
That's MedGemini polygenic. This variant is engineered specifically for genomic data, moving beyond images. It takes polygenic risk scores, PRSs, those scores, estimating genetic risk for a trait based on potentially millions of genetic variants. And it projects them into 2D images, little 8x8 pixel squares where pixel values encode genomic info. These images are then fed into the model, letting it use its visual processing to predict health outcomes like coronary artery disease, stroke, diabetes, glaucoma, COPD, and so on.
Wow. Turning abstract genetic risk into a visual pattern the LLM can learn from, that's really thinking outside the box.
It's a fascinating way to make that high-dimensional genomic data interpretable for a visual system.
So the training for this family of models, what kind of data, what scale are we talking about?
Massive scale. Over 7 million data samples from 3.7 million medical images and cases were used for fine-tuning and instruction tuning. And crucially, a lot of this used paired medical data with free text descriptive reports. This is super efficient because that kind of paired data is everywhere in healthcare. Every X-ray, every CT, every path slide usually has a report. It drastically reduces the need for expensive manual expert labeling, which is always a huge bottleneck in medical AI, allows them to scale up the training data much more effectively.
Smart use of existing clinical data. Makes sense. And dealing with patient data, preventing leakage must be a huge concern.
Absolutely critical. They were meticulous about splitting data sets by patient identifier whenever possible. This ensures they're accurately assessing generalization, not just memorization of specific patients. And beyond the general fine-tuning, there was also a dedicated instruction fine-tuning phase. This refined the model's ability to follow specific instructions, generate tailored outputs vital for clinical settings where precision matters. This often involves techniques like parameter-efficient fine-tuning, or PEFT, on smaller, instruction-focused data sets, adapting the base Gemini without retraining the whole behemoth.
Okay, let's dive deeper into these multimodality capabilities. It really sounds like MedGemini covers an incredible range.
It truly does. Radiology handles both 2D X-rays and full 3D CT volumes, plus MRI for VQA rad evaluation, histopathology, processes patches from whole slide images, generates captions, handles Q&A, ophthalmology, interprets fundus images for things like diabetic retinopathy, dermatology, works with skin lesion images, and genomics, using those PRS images for disease risk prediction. It's a genuinely versatile medical AI platform.
Okay, the proof is in the pudding. For the AI researchers listening, evaluation and results are key. How did MedGemini actually perform across this spectrum?
The evaluation was incredibly rigorous. 22 datasets, 5 tasks, 6 modalities, included 8 out-of-distribution datasets to really test generalization. Over 40,000 evaluation samples total. They used a hybrid evaluation approach. Automated metrics like RADGRaph F1, accuracy, AUC F1, Rugel, BLEAU4 for objective scores. But crucially, for subjective tasks like report generation, extensive expert human evaluation.
That human evaluation piece again, so important. What was the rubric like for those reports?
They developed a novel, very granular 6-category rubric. Board-certified radiologists used it to compare AI reports to original human reports. Categories range from AI superior original missed key findings all the way to original superior AI missed key findings. Allows for a nuanced look at clinical impact. And importantly, the evaluators were blinded to the report's source, AI or human, and the order was randomized to minimize bias. Very rigorous.
Good, blinding is key there. So the highlights, what were the standout performance results?
Okay, for test X-ray report generation with MedGemini 2.D, it really set a new benchmark. Human experts rated 57% of AI reports on normal cases and 43% on abnormal cases as equivalent or better than the original radiologist reports on one dataset. On another dataset, it was even higher. 96% for normal cases, 65% for abnormal. That's huge. It also hit a RADGRaph F1 score of 24.4%, a solid 3.9% improvement over the previous best model, shows it generates high-quality, clinically relevant reports.
Incredible for 2D, but the big ambition was 3D, right? How did the CT report generation fare?
For 3D CT report generation, MedGemini 3D was groundbreaking as the first LMM-based model to tackle this. Now, 53% of its reports were deemed clinically acceptable by human evaluators, which is promising, but the researchers are clear. Achieving full expert radiologist quality is still the goal. It's not there yet. Performance was interestingly better on abnormal cases than normal ones, perhaps because pathology gives clearer signals. It really highlights the challenge of handling massive 3D data, but also shows real tangible progress in a tough area.
Okay, so promising, but still work to do on 3D. What about its general visual understanding and those genomic predictions?
In visual question answering, VQA, it surpassed previous bests in CXR VQA, beating state-of-the-art or baselines on 17 out of 20 tasks. Got a tokenized F1 of 52.5% on MI CXR VQA. Strong performance. For image classification, MedGemini 2.D beat baselines on 18 out of 20 tasks across path, OPPA, and DERM, getting close to task-specific model performance. And in genomic risk prediction, MedGemini polygenic impressively outperformed standard linear PRS methods. It even generalized well to genetically related diseases it wasn't trained on, getting higher AUCs for most outcomes. Suggests it's really picking up meaningful patterns in that visualized genomic data.
These are definitely impressive results, pushing multimodal boundaries. But what about the challenges in the future outlook? You mentioned 3D radiology is tough, and these are proof of concept.
Exactly. Integrating 3D radiology is still a major hurdle. The sheer data size of CT scans, architectural limits in processing that efficiently, the clinical complexity, it's tough. The current results are definitely a proof of concept, not yet ready for independent clinical use. The researchers emphasize ongoing development, needing deep involvement from human specialists to guide the models, and shifting towards evaluation in realistic clinical scenarios to really test AI-human collaboration. And like all these huge models, concerns about potential data contamination linger. Did the model accidentally see test data during training? It could inflate generalization scores. So, careful attention, more prospective studies are needed to validate true zero-shot performance. For researchers, this means focusing on efficient 3D architectures and robust data tracking.
Got it. Okay, that brings us to our final contender, MedGemma. This one seems to bring another angle, perhaps focusing on efficiency and clinical reasoning.
That's a good way to put it. MedGemma is built on the Gemma 3 architecture, which is known for being more lightweight and efficient compared to some other giant models. It comes in a 4B multimodal version, emphasizing efficiency, and a larger 27B text-only version. Shows a strategic approach, tailoring size and capability. Its core design involves a sophisticated multi-stage training. First step, critical for the multimodal version, is vision encoder enhancement. They took the Gemma 3 vision encoder SIGLIP400M, trained on WebLI, and fine-tuned it with over 33 million medical image text pairs, including a mix of modalities, but a huge chunk, 32.6 million, were histopathology patches.
Whoa, 32.6 million patches. That's intense. How did they balance that specialized medical training with keeping the general vision capabilities?
Very cleverly. They mixed the medical data in with only a 2% weight compared to the original general data like WebLI. This strategy enhances medical understanding significantly without sacrificing that broader visual language reasoning. It's like a progressive adaptation. And for efficiency, while the base encoder uses 896 by 896 resolution, they released MedSiglip at 448 by 448. Uses downsampled positional embeddings, but the same weights. More practical for many settings, but still strong.
Efficiency as a core principle makes sense for broader adoption. What happened after enhancing the vision encoder?
Next stage was multimodal decoder pre-training. This readapted the Gemma language model to work with that enhanced vision encoder. It incorporated both general and new medical image text paired data. Interestingly, no extra medical text-only data was added here. The base Gemma 3 mixture was deemed sufficient linguistically. They mixed the medical image data with a 10% weight, trained for about 5 epochs on this mix. They picked the best checkpoint based on performance in CXR report generation and VQA tasks across radiology, derm, and ophthalm, fine-tuning for optimal multimodal integration.
And the larger text-only model. Any specific post-training there?
Yes, for the 27B text-only version, there was a crucial post-training stage that included reinforcement learning, or RL, fine-tuning. This is really significant. It strongly suggests a focus on aligning its text outputs with desired clinical reasoning and response styles. Using RL, likely with human feedback or preference data, pushes the model towards more clinically appropriate, nuanced, safe communication. It's about optimizing for things like factuality, conciseness, helpfulness, critical in healthcare, going beyond just accuracy.
So, unlike MedGemini's push into 3D and genomics, what's MedGemma's specific multimodality focus?
MedGemma takes a more targeted approach. It currently focuses squarely on 2D medical images, X-rays, 2D CT/MRI slices. Crucially, no 3D volumes or genomic datasets in its current multimodal scope, unlike MedGemini. It's a strategic decision to specialize in 2D interpretation first, perhaps, but within that 2D focus, it uses significantly larger internal collections for specific domains. Over 180K retinal fundus images for ophthalmology, over 50K dermatology images across 210 conditions, and that massive 32.5 million histopathology patch text pairs. This depth within its chosen 2D modalities shows a huge investment in mastering those particular visual tasks.
It's an enormous amount of specialized data. Very deep focus. I think the sources mentioned they actually removed some data sets during training.
Yes, they showed careful data curation. They explicitly removed data sets like PathVQA, Med-VQA, and PAD-UFS20. The reasoning was identified data quality issues or concerns that the datasets weren't specific enough for MedGemma's goals, like aiming for general dermatology capabilities. It shows a pragmatic approach. Prioritize clean, high-quality, relevant data to avoid noise or bias that could hurt performance.
Smart. Okay, evaluation time for MedGemma. How did it stack up on its specialized tasks, both text and image?
For medical text question answering, it was tested on the usual suspects: MedQA, MedMCQA, PubMedQA, MMLU medical topics, plus AfriMedQA and MedExpertQA as ODE benchmarks. The 27B text-only MedGemma, especially using test time scaling like self-consistency, hit 87.7% accuracy on MedQA. That's a big jump from its base Gemma 3 27B model, 74.9%. Really highlights the impact of its specialized training, including that RL tuning for medical knowledge.
Strong text performance. And on the image side for the multimodal version?
For medical image classification, evaluated on CXR, MAMX CXR, Chest X-ray 14, Dermatology US Derm MCQA, Path MCQA, and Ophtho IPAX. MedSiglip's zero-shot CXR performance was notably 2.0% higher than an ELI-XR-based CXR and SU-80, so more efficient and slightly better. In that comparison, yes. Suggests it's a very strong and efficient foundation. And particularly impressive was its improvement in fracture classification, historically tricky, where it beat ELA-XR by 7.1%. Shows it's good at detecting subtle things.
That is a significant gain, especially at lower res. How about chest X-ray report generation?
They used RadGraph F1 on the MMIC CXR test set. The pre-trained MedGemma model achieved an F1 of 29.5%. Interestingly, they chose the pre-trained model here, not the post-trained one. The reason? The post-trained model tended to adopt Gemma 3's original style more, which could actually hurt metrics sensitive to the specific, often formulaic, style needed for radiology reports. It shows that tension in fine-tuning, optimizing general chat style versus domain-specific reporting accuracy.
Fascinating trade-off. Did they do human evaluations for these reports? Any quirks there?
Yes, a U.S. board-certified cardiothoracic radiologist evaluated reports on a 5-point scale. But here's a key detail, and they acknowledge it as a limitation. The reviewer was not blinded to whether the report was AI or original. Ideally, you want blinding for unbiased assessment. But this unblinded review still gives valuable qualitative feedback, practical insights for iterating on the model. It's part of the messy reality of development.
Right. Practical feedback, even if not perfectly rigorous. And finally, MedGemma introduced a novel benchmark. That sounded quite different.
Yes, this is really cool. They introduced EHR-QA, a new benchmark specifically for longitudinal outpatient electronic health record EHR data. It uses synthetic FHIR formatted records generated programmatically. It involves multi-hop reasoning, integrates external medical knowledge, applies temporal and arithmetic reasoning, uses patient data interdependencies, basically creating complex questions that require understanding a patient's history. The questions are designed for automated evaluation and cover a wide range of query types, reflecting both clinician and patient questions about longitudinal health. It's a big step towards evaluating AI's ability to reason over a patient's entire dynamic medical journey, not just isolated facts.
That sounds like a much more realistic challenge. Reasoning over time, integrating different data points. What are the current limits of this EHR-QA dataset?
The main acknowledged limitation right now is the absence of clinical notes in the synthetic data. Real EHRs rely heavily on those unstructured notes. Integrating and reasoning over free text notes along with structured data is a major future challenge. But even without notes yet, EHR-QA is a critical step towards more realistic, complex EHR reasoning tasks, understanding the patient journey over time.
Okay, we've really dug into the specifics of MedPaLM2, MedGemini, and MedGemma. Let's try to synthesize this now. Side by side, what are the core architectural philosophies, training differences, multimodality nuances, evaluation strategies? Let's distill the key takeaways for AI researchers.
Okay, let's synthesize. Looking at architectural philosophies, you see 3 distinct paths. MedPaLM2, primarily a highly tuned LLM, PaLM2. Text first, reasoning heavy, leveraging that iterative self-correction via ensemble refinement. MedGemini and MedGemma, true LLMs. MedGemini is the comprehensive generalist multimodal player specialized encoders for 2D, 3D, even genomics. Ambitious scope, aiming to interpret diverse, complex modalities. MedGemma, also multimodal, but currently more focused, optimized for 2D images. Strategic choice for depth and efficiency in that domain. Its lower-res MedSiglip highlights that efficiency consideration.
Right, different core bets on architecture. How do their training methods reflect this and give them their unique strengths?
The training methodologies really show different paths to clinical intelligence. MedPaLM2 relies heavily on instruction tuning and ensemble refinement. It's about advanced prompting and internal self-correction to boost reasoning and clinical alignment, optimizing the thought process. MedGemini focuses on co-tuning vision and language components, leverages readily available paired image-text data, like reports, for training efficiency. And that novel use of a video encoder for 3D data is a really creative solution. MedGemma uses that multi-stage approach. Enhance vision backbone first, then readapt the language model. And the RL tuning for its text-only model shows a strong focus on optimizing response style and clinical reasoning from the text angle, beyond just facts.
And the multimodality capabilities have these fascinating nuances, too, showing where each is pushing the frontier.
Absolutely. MedGemini clearly pushes boundaries with 3D CT interpretation and genomic image analysis for PRSs. These are advanced areas others aren't tackling yet, a step towards holistic patient data understanding. MedGemma, while 2D focused, has those significantly larger internal data sets for ophthalmology, dermatology, histopathology, deep domain-specific investment for mastery within its chosen 2D scope. MedPaLM2 in these sources is primarily presented as a text-based LLM. Its multimodal side isn't detailed like the others, highlighting its core strength in text-driven clinical reasoning.
And evaluation. It seems clear everyone agrees human judgment is non-negotiable in medicine.
Totally. Automated metrics aren't enough. MedPaLM2's physician preference over human answers in pairwise ranking is powerful evidence for its clinical utility in Q&A. MedGemini's detailed human rubric for reports, distinguishing degrees of clinical impact, offers a valuable framework for assessing real-world use. MedGemma's unblinded human eagle, while a limitation, reflects the practical reality of iterative development needing quick feedback. And new benchmarks like MedGemma's EHR-QA, tackling longitudinal EHR data, show the need for more diverse, clinically relevant evaluations that mimic real interactions over time.
So pulling it all together for AI researchers listening,
Yeah.
what are the big overarching challenges in the path forward illuminated by these models?
Okay, the biggest challenge, echoed by all, is bridging benchmarks to the bedside. Impressive scores don't automatically mean safe, effective, real-world use. The focus has to shift to AI-human collaboration, impact on patient outcomes. Second, the risk of data bias and safety issues inherited from training data is critical. Needs constant, diligent evaluation and mitigation before any deployment. Third, data contamination. With massive data sets, models might inadvertently see test data. This needs robust methods to gauge true generalization, likely requiring more prospective studies and better data provenance tracking. And computationally, scaling further, especially with 3D and other high-dimensional data, needs ongoing innovation and efficient architectures and training.
And beyond these immediate hurdles, what are the really exciting unexplored frontiers researchers should be thinking about now?
Well, beyond the current progress, integrating truly complex, high-dimensional data is still a major frontier. Think spatial transcriptomics, proteomics, understanding gene expression or proteins within tissue context, integrating these multi-omics with clinical notes, imaging that needs new paradigms, also moving beyond just prediction to causal inference in EHRs. Can models understand why outcomes happen and how interventions might cause changes? That's a huge leap. These models show incredible progress in radiology, pathology, genomics, but the broader landscape of complex biological and clinical data is still wide open for exploration, demands even more sophisticated multimodal architectures and reasoning.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the AI researcher? We've gone deep into MedPaLM2, MedGemini, MedGemma, their architectures, training, multimodality evaluation. What's clear is these aren't just small steps. They're significant strategic leaps towards genuinely intelligent, clinically applicable AI.
Absolutely. From MedPaLM2's expert Q&A and reasoning refinement, to MedGemini's pioneering 3D and genomics work, to MedGemma's efficient 2D prowess and novel EHR capabilities. The field is just buzzing with innovation. Each model adds a unique, crucial piece to the puzzle of building comprehensive medical AI. They offer distinct paths, valuable insights for future work.
And as we've heard, that journey from research breakthrough to safe, effective clinical deployment is complex. Challenges around data, bias, human-AI collaboration are immense. The core question becomes not just how smart can they get, but maybe how effectively and ethically can we integrate this intelligence to genuinely improve human health, making them indispensable partners. What critical questions will you ask next as these models keep evolving towards becoming trusted partners in healthcare?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this exploration has given you valuable insights and sparked your curiosity for what's coming next in the truly fascinating world of health foundation models.